Let's explore the dilemma of forgetting meditation's insights. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. How to remember my realizations more, the individual wrote. So the problem is that I journal every day and have some great insights and realizations about myself. But after a few moments, I just forget about them. Maybe I'm just becoming really forgetful, but the impact of the realization seems to last for a really short time. It's like there's a window that would close, so I have to write down everything, and then I just forget. Even if I'm writing those entries, even if I'm reading those entries, I feel like I'm reading someone else's book. So let's stop right there. You are reading someone else's book. Let us review the Ship of Theseus, which is a delightful thought experiment of the ancient world. A merchant named Theseus had a ship, and after every journey he replaced something. First he replaced the sails, and after another journey he would replace the rope. After another journey he would replace the brass fittings. After another journey he would replace the skeleton of the beams of the boat. After another journey, he would replace the hull of the boat. After another journey, he would replace the decks of the boat. After another journey, he would replace the flagpoles or the sail. I'm not sure what the word is. The the masts upon which the sails would hang, and so forth and so on. At what point did he have a new boat? And this is a question about the persistence of identity. But you and I are less individuals than we are an amalgam of an infinite number of components. Some which last a very, very short time, some which last up to 7 years. But every 7 years, every living cell in our body, or every living cell that we label as our body, is replaced. On a much smaller scale. In Michael Crichton's book, Rising Sun, he expressed how in Japan, a man is a different person in every room of his house. Neuroscientists and particle physicists have no problem with the notion that there is no such thing as free will. It is merely an illusion created by persistence of vision. It's merely an illusion kept in place by patriarchy, which really likes punishing people for things that really aren't their fault. I've said all that to say this. Who you were 3 minutes ago is a different person. On some level. On an organic level, probably not. On a molecular level, possibly. On a subatomic level, most certainly. Same level, similar history, but not the exact same history, because our mind and our recall and our imagination and our confabulations and our perceptions are always in a state of flux. So no, you are not the same person who wrote that. There was a wonderful, I think it was the same director who gave us Inception, gave us Memento. And it was based on an article from Vanity Fair. Way back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I got to read that article. And it was fabulous. And it mentioned an idea that was formerly floated in Star Trek The Next Generation. That within each of us is a whole village of individuals, a whole village of actors waiting their chance upon the stage, waiting their chance to sip from the ladle of consciousness or autonomy. It seems unfair, doesn't it? It seems unjust. but we keep changing. And that's the cards we're dealt. We can play someone else's hand, but that won't help us. We have to play the hand that we are dealt. Let's continue. How am I going to implement these stuffs in my life if I just lose connection to the intensity to which I felt the realizations? This happens to my thoughts during meditation, too. So let's begin with some broad brushstrokes. We'll begin by reviewing the yin and yang perspective. Approximately 100 years before the Buddha, a tale is told that Lao Tzu composed the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. In it, we learn many things, including the examples of choices and actions and attitudes that are yang, an example of those that are yin. And surprisingly, we're taught to always choose yin. Always choose yin. What has that to do with Buddhism? Well, that idea is just so locked into who we are biologically that even across the Himalayas, in a different country, the same idea came up again. And we had the idea that the Buddha, before he had the title, the Buddha was just known by the name Gautama, and that Gautama had a wicked cousin, Devadatta. And so there are some who described Devadatta's attributes as being rigid, fearful, suspicious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. Sounds like a really bad law firm, doesn't it? But his cousin's attributes were to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Consider, if you will, just two: rigidity and controlling. The more rigid and controlling we are, the more we will actively strive to meticulously record and implement our meditative insights. However, there's another path. What if we're flexible? What if we're laid back? What happens then? This brings us to the idea that during meditation we are viscerally training our flow state. We are viscerally training the wisdom of the zone. Some might call it the Tao, some might call it, an athlete might call it being in the zone. There are some people in Tibet who might call it dancing with the dakinis, or listening to the whispers of the Dharmakaya. It's the same thing, just in different cultures. Why, in the West, there are some people who would call it being led by the Spirit. This brings us to the neuroscience of meditation. Consider, if you will, this macro view of our central nervous system. You got a brain, big old bulbous brain, and this long spinal cord. Together, they form the central nervous system. Now, when we rely upon our medial prefrontal cortex to actively concentrate, and when we rely upon our dorsolateral prefrontal cortex to actively contemplate, our blood mass collects in our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression located at the bottom of our limbic system. This has been verified by fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies. But it's something really wild. When we stop relying upon our prefrontal cortex and instead, during our inhalations, when we rely upon our sympathetic nervous system that is ensconced within our thoracic region of our spinal cord, then we experience mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is not a synonym for mind blanking or active concentration. Nope. What is the mindfulness offered to us by the sympathetic nervous system? It's simply noticing, but noticing vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And as such, we can notice all manner of things. We can notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We can notice emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We can notice the external or the internal, the physical or the mental, the pleasurable or the painful, the interesting or the boring, the glorious or the grotesque. What then are we to do with that which we notice? That brings us to meditation. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within both the lower lumbar region of that same spinal cord, as well as the tippy top of that same spinal cord, also described as the brainstem. This parasympathetic nervous system has evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. But what has that to do with the insights found and then lost within the pernicious sands of time? I feel that is best explained through iconography, which is a fancy word you can use next time you play Scrabble. Consider, if you will, this image popular in Tibet. Consider the gal, the color of a cumulus cloud, who appears to be actively sporting a tantric union. Perhaps this could remind us that contrivance will always be trumped by spontaneity. Consider her partner, the color of the azure sky, who would appear to be passively savoring the same tantric union. What could we learn from that? We could learn that the scattered spontaneity, like the kind we experience after our third espresso, will always be trumped by the centered spontaneity that is the byproduct of a consistent and effective practice of mindfulness and meditation. But wait, there's more. When our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow from the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity, our life could effortlessly become as blissful as the real or imagined paradise or pure land, or if you prefer Sanskrit, vati of a real or imagined Buddha. Do our insights vanish rapidly? They do. But when we perceive those insights, what if we are actually reading over someone else's shoulder? What if we were not the all-being master of time, space, and dimension? What if we were not the conductor of the orchestra of our life? What if we were not the composer? What if we were just an audience member enjoying the show? The more effectively we meditate, practice meditation and mindfulness, ideally at least for 5 minutes every 12 hours or so, the more we will be in the zone. The more our choices, utterances, and deeds will flow. And the more evolution will become an inevitability, to borrow a phrase from our favorite villain, Agent Smith, in the first Matrix movie. I do look forward to practicing the finer details with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. Oopsie, wrong button. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. We're going to flip and flop between passive contemplation and passive meditation. Let us begin by bringing the 4 bases of mindfulness, the circumstantial, the physical, the interpersonal, and the mental, into the practice of love and letting go, which is also known as Tantra Mahamudra, Mahayoga, or Tokal's leap over the jealousy of the confusion of jealousy and pride. But you know, I think I made a boo-boo in my editing, so give me a moment here. Somewhere a Dharma nerd just had an aha moment. Please chant with me. Rather than indulge or controlling tendencies with all follies of active visualization, emotion, magic, and belief, we could just recite these wise words in harmony with our breathing and allow our subconscious to do the heavy lifting. Let us sidestep the rigidity that confuses metaphors for literal statements, and relax into the flexibility that savors the chance explaining metaphors as similes. Let's begin. All circumstances or lots could be as impermanent and interdependent as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this body or form. And so we're using the verb melting as a metaphor of impermanence, just as we are using the verb absorb as a metaphor of interdependence. Let's see here. Let's just do this. So, now that I've done an excessive amount of typing, I would very much like to play with this exercise for 4 rounds, assuming a round is simply 1 inhalation followed by 1 exhalation. So, I'd like to count 4 repetitions, or 4 rounds, thusly. During each inhalation, I would like very much to advance the tip of my left thumb upon the creases and tip of my left little finger. I invite you to join with me. Please chant with me. All bodies or forms could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this communicational speech. All interpersonal speech could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if it could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into this mind. Whoops, wrong button. All minds could be as impermanent and interdependent, as if they could blissfully melt into rainbow light that could delightfully absorb into a vast empty void. So before we go on, let's explore what is meant, metaphorically, by a vast empty void. I guess just to say it like a simile. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye could be non-graspable to the hand. When I first learned how to work out, we'd exercise and then we'd rest. We'd exercise and then we'd rest. Well, we've just done an exercise, so now let's rest. We'll rest by bringing whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go, which is known by many names, including Dzogchen, Sutra Mahamudra, Ati Yoga, and Trekcho's slice through the duality of dread and desire. How are we to do this? Simple. During our inhalation, we can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this, and thus we'll find ourselves perceiving. During our exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease, and then find ourselves releasing. So, up until this point, we have been counting rounds upon our left hand, and that's fine. We can count 16 rounds this way. On our right hand, we can count sets. On our right hand, we can count sets of these rounds. one set of 16 rounds, two sets of 16 rounds, and so forth. It's most ergonomically sound to, rather than lift our hands in the air in front of the camera, just to keep them in our lap. One of the many benefits of a regular meditation practice is we get better and better at navigating the middle path. The middle path between the extremes of repressing our self-pity or indulging our self-pity. It is as if the middle path is centered spontaneity, and either side lies scattered spontaneity. Or perhaps another way is to say that centered spontaneity is the middle way between scattered spontaneity and outright contrivance. With each inhalation, we might feel a gentle shift in the muscles of our body. A vertical traction between our tush and our head. And during each exhalation, we might find that or feel that relax. Like the ponderous swinging of a grandfather clock's pendulum, we're going to swing between back and forth. Oops, sorry, chin. Back and forth between passive contemplation and passive meditation. We just contemplated the impermanence and interdependence that are the bread and butter of Madhyamaka view of wisdom. Now we're going to, I guess I skipped a step. Now that we've climbed to contemplative cruising altitude together as a team, we could meditate as profoundly as Asoka Tano Om Lothal. But now let us bring the 4 bases of mindfulness into the practice of love and letting go. Please chant with me. May whole minds of all beings know me as peacefully wise as the enlightened mind of a real or. Imagine Buddha symbolized by a tikle one syllable seed or bija mantra. May all relationships or speech of all beings know me as joyfully loving as a real or imagined Buddha's communication symbolized by the 12 syllable mantra. No, our job is not to believe or emote or work magic. Our job is simply to exercise the neural pathways responsible for love. Kind of like doing push-ups. So we are giving love to all speech of all beings, literally or figuratively. It's like we're scooping up a snowball and then throwing it at our target. May all bodies or forms of all beings know and ensure the beautiful health seen in Buddhist statuary, depicting the blissful body of a real or imagined Devi or Yadam and archetype of enlightenment such as Kuntu Zangpo. So we are wishing great health for each form of each being, of each world, real or imagined. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have the good fortune or boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, pure land or Vati. Again, let us bring whatever we spontaneously notice into the path of awareness and letting go. Let us bring the 5 aggregates into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body or form we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever sensation such as pleasure or pain we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void.
Oops. Oh.
As we relax into our exhalation, whatever appraisal of pleasure or pain's intensity or volume we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever impulse such as fucking, feeding, fighting, fleeing, fainting, or fawning we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness of perception, emotion, intention, cognition, recollection, or imagination we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as not graspable as a vast empty void. Let us bring the 5 mental poisons into the path of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever hate we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as mirror-like wisdom's clairvoyant. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever pride we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as the equalizing wisdom of primordial voidness. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever craving we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as discerning wisdom's bliss void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever jealousy we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as all-accomplishing wisdom's void intellect. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever confusion we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as all-pervasive wisdom's awareness void. Let us bring the 5 dualistic perceptions into the path of non-dualities, awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of beauty or ugliness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of just sights. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of discord or harmony we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply sound. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of foul or fragrant we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the empty scent of could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply scent. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of disgusting or delicious we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply taste. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever dualistic experience of pain or pleasure we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to melt into the non-duality of simply sensation. Let's bring the 5 thoughts into the path of awareness and letting go. Now, if at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application, there is no need to be shy. Please type your question in great detail in the chat window. Please chant with me. Wait a second, I think it's supposed to... I lost count? Oh, let's continue. Okay. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever emotion we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever intention we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever cognition we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever recollection we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever imagination we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Come, let us seal this evening's practice by percussively chanting Love and Letting Go's wishes for universal enlightenment and well-being. May all minds of all beings who said yet void no be as enlightened as a Buddha's mind symbolized by a one-syllable bija. May all speech of all beings resounding yet void no be as loving as a Buddha's speech symbolized by a multi-syllable mantra. May all forms of all beings sensual yet void no be as healthy as a Yidam archetype depicted in Buddhist statuary. May all lots of all beings appearing yet void no be as fortunate as a pure land of law depicted in Buddhist paintings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel in a whoopsie. That is weird. What is going on here? There we go. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.